want it, you can get it, let me know. I am about to, let's go. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess doing the absolute mostest, Keilyn, and honestly, that is literally the mood of How to Die Alone. Let me tell you, this series is phenomenal. Natasha, Rothwell, shout out to you. Everybody has been hollering about you getting your flowers, getting your own show, and doing everything since Insecure. Every time you were on screen, you literally were just like the moment. So to see all your hard work and everything that you're doing behind the scenes pay off is absolutely phenomenal. I am officially obsessed. There's not enough episodes being put out in the first season. And the only critique that I have for the entire show is that I wish it was actually produced weekly on ABC, like network television. That's literally my only critique. This is a show I would absolutely, much like Abbott Elementary, just fiend for the next week to be like, what's next and what's happening, and just spend an entire week just losing my mind, stressed, pulling my hair out, my heart palpitating. That is the energy of this entire series. If you're not compelled to watch it before I just gave this phenomenal intro, because duh, it's phenomenal, then you need to go watch it just by listening to that alone. What a breath of fresh air. So honestly, let's just get into it. So today I'm gonna be doing a non-spoiler review on episodes 1 through 4 for How to Die Alone, which premieres on Hulu. Friday the 13th, September 13th, 2024. Put it on your calendars. You need to check it out. I don't know what day it's gonna be when I release this, but it's either gonna be the 12th or the 13th. Either way, watch the show. Have I steered y'all wrong yet? I literally have not been wrong at all. So what is this show about, right? I can say, like, when I first saw like images and stuff, there's this animated cartoon on Netflix, and this woman, like, the end of the world is coming, and she works like some job that she doesn't really like, but then she's trying to like make the most of her life. And so when I first saw the images, I was like, is this like that cartoon that I saw? It's not at all. And I'm really excited about that, because I just think it's a beautiful thing when we see something fresh, or where we take old ideas and kind of remix them in a way that newer generations can relate to, and older generations can like still connect to what's going on. So the overall premise of the show, this is just in my own words, we have Natasha Rothwell, who plays Melissa, who is basically just a passenger in her own life, who experiences a near-death experience. And from this experience, she's questioning how she lives and is trying to take a more active role in the way that she approaches life. So as I kind of go through this, I'm gonna go through like each episode and kind of go over like the themes and some of the elements and some of the beats of the episode, so you can kind of see like where we're going in the season, while making sure, or I'm gonna try to make sure, that I don't spoil anything for you. And so by doing that, we have water today, okay? You can't go wrong with some good old agua, all right? No slips, no tipsy mistakes, okay? We are of sound mind and body. So let's get into it, guys. Now normally I do like who the music person is, the DP, cinema, like all of that stuff, but because I'm doing 4 episodes, I'm gonna just give you like the gist of like the players and, you know, who and what is important for this, and then subsequent videos, you know, we'll go into depth episodically. This is presented by Onyx Collective, and I just want to shout out the music department at Onyx Collective. They do not miss. When I looked on IMDb, the music editor that's credited on IMDb, at least, is Scott Francisco, and he's credited as the music editor and music supervisor of at least these first 4 episodes. Onyx, music is important. Music drives the storyline. Music drives the emotion. It is absolutely not a background character. It's not an extra. It literally is a co-star, and I love that throughout all of their shows, from How to Die Alone, from Reasonable Doubt to Unprisoned, music is very prevalent in the storytelling, and that just goes to show you how much the arts is important to this production company. So I'm really, really excited that it's not like a hidden figure and it's very much in your face. So I'm always excited. The songs at the ending of each episode are amazing. It makes you want to twerk, it makes you want to cry, it makes you want to like crunk, like it just makes you want to do everything. So yeah. The creator is Natasha Rothwell, and she's also credited as an executive producer, and she wrote episode 1. The writer for episode 2 is Kristen Bartlett. The writer for episode 3 is Vargas Jackson, and the writer for episode 4 is Halsted Sullivan. I didn't see a picture of Halsted Sullivan on IMDb, but I do, from the research that I've seen, there's a lot of women and a lot of people of color involved in a lot of Onyx Collective's productions. So shout out to them for just moving the bar forward and just being inclusive and diverse, not only in the people, but also having diverse storytelling and diverse lenses and diverse pens to be able to get the full picture so that the entire audience can relate. I already talked about the music editor. So your main players throughout these episodes are Natasha Rothwell, who plays Melissa, Conrad Ricamora, which you may know from How to Get Away with Murder. He plays Rory and Melissa's best friend. We have Jocko Sims, who plays Alex, who's Melissa's ex. We have Deirdre Cross, who plays Jada. We have Michelle McLeod, who plays Patti, and Michelle, I just want to stop right here and give her flowers. Such comedic timing. Her chemistry with Natasha is absolutely ridiculous. If you liked Kelly and Insecure, Kelly to Insecure is Michelle, is Patti to How to Die Alone. Love her every time she's on screen. And she also reminds me of Dwight from The Office. I don't know if that was like an inspiration or up on the mood board, but she gives Dwight with the comedic timing and just absolute precision of Kelly from Natasha's character in Insecure. We have Keilyn Durrel Jones, who plays Terrance. We have Jaylee Hamidi, who plays Allie, and Melissa Duprey, who plays Tamika. So one thing that I did not notice until episode 3 is that in the opening, like they'll show like the plane landing or taking off, and the titles of the names are on the side of the plane as if it's like the name of that airline. I thought that was really creative and cute. Why it took me 3 episodes, I don't know. But anyways, so episode 1 is titled Stop Living. And before each episode begins, there's like these street interviews of different people, and they're just talking about like different things. And so what I decided to do in my notes is to basically sum up the theme or like the beat and the tone from the types of interviews that they were giving. So episode 1's theme, and this is a direct quote from Melissa in the episode: "I want someone to love me even though I can't." Come on, y'all. Don't we all? Somebody who loves. What y'all know about Queen? Anyways, the episode. So episode 1 is so funny and also beautifully heartbreaking at the same time. So in episode 1, basically what is the catalyst of everything and the premise of the entire show is Melissa dies. And she dies for 3 minutes. And coming to the realization in the hospital that her life as she sees it is rather meaningless. It's lonely. she's going through the entire episode just basically having like an internal battle and trying to come to the realization that she is not accomplishing anything and has not accomplished anything. And as she self-reflects, she realizes, like, do I have any goals at all? Like, what am I doing here? And I could have died alone, lonely, on her birthday. And this is a very traumatic event that begins like the ups and downs. I won't necessarily say that it's a spiral, but it really begins the up and down of the things that Melissa goes through. And to Natasha Rothwell's credit, you know, we saw her on Insecure playing Kelly and Super Funny, and she had like one deep, like, dramatic scene, and it was when she was really emotional when Tiffany didn't ask her to help plan her baby shower. And so that was the first time I saw Natasha Rothwell actually do something very serious. So I think that Natasha does a really good job with her timing and her precision in diving into the emotions and into the tears and delivering such powerful moments, and then in the next breath going into something funny or cutting you off. And so it's kind of like when you're in the middle of crying, but then like you're crying and then you like stub your toe or something and you can't do anything else because you have no more tears but to laugh. And she's found a way to really grip you. So while the show's main beat is comedy, there are some beautiful dramatic elements in here with some powerhouse drama actors. And I've said this before, like, comedic actors are some of the best dramatic actors that you'll ever see. So I really, really love, just out the gate in episode 1, this is what we're getting. One of the biggest things in episode 1 is her realizing not only about dying, because obviously that's huge, but her ex is moving on and she doesn't really know how to handle this. And the worst part about it is they work together and he invited her to the wedding. So it's messy, guys. It's super messy. And so now Melissa is kind of forced to do what a lot of people do who may not be over their ex. Lie to yourself and think that you can actually handle seeing your ex every day, watching them move on, watching them get married and have these life accomplishments that you thought that you would not only have with them, but that you would have in general at this point in time based off whatever timeline that you put into place for yourself. So episode 1 just encapsulates and draws you in immediately. There's not a single boring moment in this episode, and immediately I'm invested. So we're coming out of episode 1 and we move into episode 2, which is titled Lie and Deny. The theme of that is denying the self an emotional response to one's own pain. And I love in one of the opening interviews, this woman on the street, and she was talking about basically how, like, she'll experience something that is painful, but because we're taught to be resilient, and because we're like, oh, well, you're not dead or you came out of it alive, to completely ignore the feelings of the trauma in the first place. So just from the interviews on the street alone, and just that quote from one of the people on the street, I don't know if those are real people or just characters being given lines, but we just said she died in episode 1, and while she's alive, it's trauma. You could have been gone. And we're looking at a Melissa who hasn't really sat down and really processed the fact that she has no real meaningful relationships on this earth. And it makes you think, like, who would have been at my funeral? What would they have said? Has anybody even come there? She's estranged from family members. It appears that she only has one friend, which is Rory. And with that friendship dynamic, you know, if you only have one friend, you kind of lean on them for everything without realizing it. And while that relationship can be very close, it can also be very codependent and extremely toxic. So we're just kind of dealing with a Melissa who's trying to figure it out. Like, she's actively taking an approach to figure her life out. In this episode, she's faced with a financial crisis, but something comes up at work where the owner of JFK Airlines basically tells her, like, you have an impeccable record and I want to offer you a managerial position. And, you know, she's thinking about it and things of that nature, but taking this job could also compromise some work relationships that she has with her other coworkers. And so we're kind of stuck in this space of, you know, do I just please the people that I work with to the detriment of my own happiness? And this is something that she really struggles with, because ultimately she is still a people pleaser, and she's kind of moving as though she has to like acquiesce to the needs of others in order to have a community around her. But one of the beautiful things is she meets Allie, who is a bartender, and this is like a significant change for her, because outside of Rory, this is somebody else that she has like this instant connection with. But if you look at her friendship with Rory and then you look at the budding friendship with Allie, one of them seems like a codependency, while Allie seems to be trying to get her to find her independence and find her power. And so we're now introduced with a female friendship, and we all know how important female friendships are, especially when, while at work, Melissa has like this work beef with Patti. And like I mentioned earlier, Michelle playing Patti, it is phenomenal. The way that they bicker, it gives you like old school sitcom, like Florence and George Jefferson, or Pam and Martin, Stan and Dorothy's Bornak. It really has like this old school feel where the rivalry seems to be born of nothing, and it's probably because they're very similar in personalities, and sometimes when you're too similar you just don't get along, so they give each other the ick. So you have Allie, who's like this female friend, and then it's in contrast with the other female that she directly works with at work, especially since a lot of her coworkers are men. So it's just really funny, and it's like a really nice beat, and it's something that Melissa really needs as she's going through this experience, because up until this point she's not really said anything. So go back to the title of Lie and Deny. She's lying to herself and denying herself the acknowledgement of her own pain. So we're festering in this, and these things are sitting, and they're kind of coming up to the surface, but not quite yet. Episode 3, guys, it's titled Burn Bridges. Burn Bridges. Now, if you was paying attention to what I said in episode 2, then you kind of know what's happening in episode 3, but I'll continue. So the theme is letting go of someone to grow. And this is where I'm really getting into the interviews that are happening before the show actually starts. And one of the questions was basically like, have you ever had to let anybody in your life go to grow, and what was that experience like for you? So I like that the people on the street just had a lot of different experiences, but ultimately they realized that it's what's best for them. And for me, the tone of this episode, one of the things that is talked about, and another friend that we're introduced to, who is Tamika, Tamika found Melissa in her apartment. She's like an across the hall neighbor. So now we're adding another friend and another female friend. So we're actually building a community, and I don't even know that Melissa is aware of this community of girlfriends that she's building. But we see like her mood, her energy, and her confidence is boosting when she's around them. One of the things that really sets the tone of this episode is her being at the bar with her friends, and she talked about a promise that she made to Rory and how she doesn't want to do something or make a decision that could hurt him. And they tell her, they're like, you doing something that's good for you, especially like a decision that's going to help you financially and just professionally overall, has nothing to do with his feelings of loyalty or whatever else that he has going on. And this is one of those things where Melissa is kind of wrestling with this thing, right? So a lot of times in friendships and when we're thinking about loyalty in general, we're like, oh, well, I told my friend I wouldn't do this because it's going to hurt their feelings, or it's going to hurt them, or they're not going to feel good about it. And this is where you really have to dissect and say, am I hurting their feelings? Like, is there something negative to come of this? Is there going to be a negative impact to this person? Or is their ego going to be hurt? And this is literally like ego versus actual feelings. And a lot of times, friends will put you in a situation where they're going to ask you to not do something that is beneficial to you, even though by you doing this and it being beneficial to you does not even take away from them. They just have this warped idea of loyalty, and it's like, well, don't do this because I wouldn't like that, or it's not going to make me feel good. And it's not that it won't make them feel good, it's just it's going to hurt their ego. So Melissa is sitting with Tamika and she's sitting with Allie, and they're like, if there's no real harm to him, and if he is a real friend, then you will be supported, because this is something that can actually benefit you. And by you not doing this, it will harm you. So he'll get to continue to be where he is and keep his status and everything in the friendship while you continue to suffer in silence. This moves us into episode 4, which is titled Settle. And it's kind of two-toned in this episode, because one of the tones is the inability to sit comfortably within your own skin. A lot of people have a big problem just sitting down, being by themselves, not having someone else or something entertain them or keep their interest. Because when you sit down, that's when the quiet settles in. And when the quiet settles in, that's when you're able to hear yourself and hear your own thoughts. And sometimes you are the only person who can tell you that you are doing a terrible freaking job. And you need to hear your inner dialogue tell you how you've been making mistakes, and how if you continue down this path, it's not going to end well for you. But a lot of people don't want to hear the truth from other people, and they damn sure don't want to hear it from themselves. And then the second tone of this episode is having tough conversations. Having tough conversations with yourself and having tough conversations with your friends. If you are to be friends, you should be able to sit down and talk to them without the fear of anything negative happening. And honestly, without worrying about what their reaction could be. A lot of times you just have to get your feelings out. And if you continue to temper yourself and edit yourself by trying to come up with these conversations on the other side, and how can they counteract you, and will their feelings get hurt, and what if you say it like this and this, that, and the third, your message actually won't even be delivered, and you're going to be constantly communicating with like this thing in between you at all times. So with that, we are dealing with a Melissa who is going through a heartbreak, going through the decision of attending her ex's wedding, a Melissa who's struggling financially, a Melissa who's at a crossroads within friendships, budding friendships, and potentially ending friendships. And we're also dealing with a Melissa who's trying to like rebound, and in her rebounding, she's actually finding her voice, and she's finding a lot of self-discovery. And we finally see in this episode a flip in where she's understanding and recognizing the power that is within her, and potentially realizing that using the fact that she almost died, instead of it being like, I almost died, like, I don't feel bad for me. It's like, I almost died. And I don't have time for nobody else's stuff but mine. I need to look into me. And I also credit Allie and Tamika for also helping her get that voice and building those foundations and those building blocks when she could not do it on her own. And so now she's floating through time, floating through space. She doesn't recognize it herself. She's rediscovering herself, but she still has a foundation and a solid support system. Even if it's new, they are solid for now, at least, for her to have the strength to be able to stand up on her own 2 feet, while also knowing that she has the blanket and the security of not truly being alone. So that is my review and recap of episodes 1 through 4 of How to Die Alone. I cannot stress enough at how refreshing this is. A lot of people are online saying how Abbott Elementary is single-handedly saving like syndication and network television. And while this is an Honest Collective production, it's also ABC has their name on it too, which is why I said that I would have also loved for this to be on ABC. It's beautiful, it's refreshing. Every episode makes you want to like claw for the next one. I can't speak. Let me get some water. Doing a lot of this in one take is something impressive, if I might say it myself. But there's just an energy. And honestly, I'm going to give it up to the writers, especially like post actor strike and writer strike. There's a lot of new shows coming out, and the energy in the pen, in the passion, in the respect in that writer's room and on the set is so palpable in the shows that I'm watching. And so I'm watching this, I'm watching the cast, I'm watching every co-star, every character just go seamlessly with each other. The jokes, the more emotional beats, the tone, the structure of this show is it's like a reimagining of an old recipe from like the way shows were done, specifically in the 90s and like the 2000s. So you have like that old recipe, but also bringing like the reality TV resurgence in there at the beginning of each episode by talking to real people. And it gets you, the viewer, in the mindset of what's to come. So while the interviews with the people on the street doesn't give away the episode, it sets you up to be in the mind of Melissa before the episode even starts. And I think that is a great way, especially with a show that doesn't do like previously on blah blah blah. So, and because they're not giving you like a recap at the beginning of it, they're using real people and real interviews to set you up and to remind you of where you are so that you can walk the show in Melissa's shoes. And I think that that is genius. So there's that. How to Die Alone. Check it out on Hulu, September 13th. Stay at home, Friday the 13th. Binge it, then watch something scary, and then binge the first 4 episodes again. Whichever order you want to do it. Who am I but just a critic who loves TV and loves film and television. If you liked this episode, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment in the comment box below. As always, go over to Spotify, follow me on there. You can also comment on any of the polls that I put on there. And if you have an iPhone, hop on over to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and you can actually write a review and rate me on there as well. You can find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I'm constantly posting. And if you want to get into some real shenanigans, you know what I'm saying? A little bit less professional, okay? Then you can find me on Twitter at Kivanshi, where I literally just pop my shit. Like, it's fun, respected, respectfully, but we're having a good time, okay? That's what we're here for. To think, to push the boundaries, to question things, and even if we're on opposite sides of things, all I say is just respect the other person's opinion and let's have some fun banter. And with that, I'm going to wrap this episode, and I cannot wait to see you next week to see how everybody is feeling about Natasha Rothwell's new show. Once again, congratulations, Natasha, and I look forward to every project that you have coming up.